Okay, it brings us to our talking point tonight. The big question that we're asking, is it possible for the Naxals and the government really to come to the dialogue table? Is it possible for the Naxals to abjure violence? Joining us now, writer and activist Arundhati Roy, also Jharkhand-based activist Gladson Dungdung joins us. Thanks very much for coming in. Let's get the other side of the story. You've heard Kishenji there, the Maoist leader, openly taking responsibility and saying that there will be more acts of violence. In this violent climate, how can you expect the government of India to reach out and call for a dialogue, which is what you, Arundhati, and other civil rights activists are calling on? You're saying the government must call off its offensive. What about asking the Maoists to abjure violence?
See, I saw this letter that Mr. Chidambaram has written asking for whether civil society groups can persuade the Maoists to abjure violence. I think it's a bit just disingenuous, the whole thing, because this binary that's been created of there are the Maoists on the one side and there's the government on the other side and there's these human rights activists in the middle. It's a simplification of a very, very complex picture. And I don't think there's any such thing as human rights activists. They all belong to different groups. There are a whole range of nonviolent democratic resistances that are being all called Maoists and then asked to negotiate, So if the government wants to negotiate with the Maoists, it should find a way of negotiating.
The government is very specifically asking for citizen groups to speak to the CPI Maoists and to bring them into the political mainstream. What's wrong with that?
They should. Then, I'm not a citizens group. I'm a writer.
But you are a citizens group that came out publicly today to actually ask that the offensive should be called off.
Of course, I think, the thing is, you've got to look at it historically in terms of why has this happened. For 30 years in places like Chhattisgarh, there have been Maoists. So why is the situation now being made to sound as if there's this huge upsurge? The real fact is, as I'm sure Gladson will also tell you, the fact is that it is, I believe, that it's the government that wants a war to clear out the forest areas because there is a huge backlog of MOUs in Jharkhand as well as in Chhattisgarh that are not being activated.
Let me tell you what the Home Minister told us on a program about a month ago when we asked him this very question. He said that, look, the government would like to do development work in these areas. But when we build roads, the Maoists blow them up. When we build schools, the Maoists blow them up. They mine roads, they mine schools, they do not allow development to take place. You say it's binary, but it's also a bit chicken and egg. What is the government of India to do if the force that's opposed to them is taking arms, is beheading policemen, is resorting to violence?
If you were present at the meeting today, Himanshu Kumar, who lives in Dantewara, said that he, under the Right to Information Act, asked the government to give information about which social Anganwadi worker, which teacher, which person who does any kind of development work the Maoists have ever killed, and the answer was none. Now the real problem is this word development. What Mr. Chidambaram means by development is not what the people in that area mean by development. I have been to Dantewara and I've seen the roads that are being built. Those are not roads being built for Adivasi people to walk.
But the mining of roads,
I'm against mining of roads. I'm against landmines, and
do you accept that? Do you accept that the violence must end? Do you accept in that sense that the violence that someone the Home Minister says very clearly, as far as I can see, the only hurdle to holding talks with the CPI Maoists is the violence that stalks the area in which they operate. Now, surely they must give up arms.
Look, that is what I'm saying is disingenuous. When the attack is from the government forces, you have a government which is bringing in the army and the air force, calling for war on the poorest people in this country when they're willing to talk to China, they're willing to talk to Pakistan. What kind of behavior is this?
But who has the weapons? Who has the weapons? The government of India says the Maoists have
the weapons.
So do the Maoists. The Maoists are well armed now.
How do you know that?
No, when you say poor people, you say that that there are poor people who are dying.
Absolutely.
Point taken. But the Maoists have lost perhaps the right, also the moral right that they perhaps had 10, 20 years ago.
The point is, who is a Maoist?
When they kill children, when they kill women,
Absolutely,
responsible?
but what about when the Salva Jurum, I mean, today there were 20 people here who the Salva Jurum had attacked. They are not in your studio, right?
enough.
They're not in your studio. Nobody ever talks about the violence. We don't even know.
All right, let's just stop
Let
over
me finish. In Dantewara, there are 644 villages that have been emptied. From 2005, there are 3.5 lakh people who have gone missing. Nobody even knows how to
one violence doesn't justify another.
It does not.
When women and children are killed, it doesn't justify state violence either, but both violences...
But you are making an equivalence of somebody who has air power and nuclear power and armies against people. Let him tell you what happened to him.
Right, if I could just bring Gladson in over here. Arundhati Roy said right now that not one Anganwadi worker has been killed by Naxals, but we do know that 659 people have died. Of them, 259, I believe, are police officers, 400 were civilians. So just to come back to our original question, Gladson, you're there on the ground. Do you think coming to the talks table is even a remote possibility right